Good afternoon, everyone. We will now call the October 9th, 2025 Audit Committee meeting to order. Mr. Wilburn, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Representing Educational District 1, we have Ms. Katie Howard.
Present.
Representing Educational District 2 and Chair of the Audit Committee, we have Ms. Aretta Balden.
Present.
Representing Educational District 6, we have Mr. Tolton Pace.
Present.
We have some other individuals joining us today. Our newly appointed Executive Director, Ms. Patrina Bloodworth. Mr. Brian Hawkins, who is also part of the Audit Committee. And then also our outsourced consultant, Plant Morone. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Wilburn, and welcome, Ms. Bloodworth. It's a joy to see you here. So I will now entertain a motion to approve the Audit Committee meeting minutes.
So
From
moved.
June 23rd, 2025.
So moved.
It's been moved by Katie Howard and seconded by Tolton Pace. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. And I will now entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the October 9th, 2025 Audit Committee meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Pace, seconded by Board Member Howard. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. We will now move to our discussion items. Please note that all documents are located within our Assembly platform. I will turn it over to Patrina Bloodworth, our new Executive Director of Internal Audit, to take us through today's agenda. And again, welcome, Patrina, or Ms. Bloodworth. No.
Oh, there we go. The red light. Okay. Again, thank you, Madam Chair Balden. We will start out our agenda for today. First, we'll go through a financial update, some exciting staffing resource plans ahead. We'll go through a status of our school year 2025 audit projects, as well as a proposed plan for the new school year. We'll do a follow-up and tracking on corrective action plan status. We'll discuss our ethics hotline, as well as non-audit activities, and then lastly, any questions and comments. For our financial update, before you, you have our overall budget to actual. So this is our total budget for the fiscal and school year 2026. As you can see, we're just into our first quarter of the school year, and so there's not been much usage, but we have some exciting plans ahead. Next week, pardon? Okay. Next, we have our detailed budget to actual. So this gives a line-by-line breakdown of our entire budget. One thing to note is our professional and technical services line, $683,922.79 budget balance there. This is related to complete department outsourcing, and we have plans to fully rebuild and restaff the department. And so I expect about $350,000 to be moved to the management personnel line, and again, that's after we go through the org chart and then approval from the board, and we'll get there a little later in the presentation. Any questions about this slide before I move on? Okay. So exciting, staffing resource plans. And so this is our draft department organizational chart. Currently, it is myself and an administrative assistant, and the department was completely outsourced. So as I have come into the district and assess where we are and how we move forward, We've created and proposed 4 additional positions to add to the department, 2 managers and 2 internal auditors, with each auditor reporting up to each manager. And I would like to special thank you to the talent management team. They have been awesome in helping me to get the job descriptions, write those properly and get, fix up all my wording. And yeah, they have been excellent to work with. Again, this is a draft to be proposed and voted on at the November board meeting.
If we can pause right there, I definitely have some questions, and there may be a couple of questions. So,
Yes.
do any of my colleagues have questions before I go? Okay. So, what I want to inquire about is, do you feel that we can offer the proper incentive, if you will, to bring the people in-house? So at one point, we had a challenge because policy-wise, we could not offer remote working
Yes.
opportunities, and we also found that we could not be competitive with salaries, and so it was hard to staff. And so, so do you feel that where the market is now, that we can truly bring in folks to fill these positions? And then 2, do you think that there will be any necessary policy changes that would make this easier for you to fill?
Yes, very valid concerns. Having been here in the past, I discussed these items with HR because I, was aware of compensation, people wanting to be remote. We're in the office every day of the week, and so I had them do a market comparison. So they did a comparison to some other school districts, and then they also looked at salary.com. And so we agreed to start out there, and their outlook was that we should get a lot of interest. And so we agreed to start there, and if we weren't seeing the type of quality that we think we should have, then we would explore other options.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions in this space right now? Okay.
All right. And then after the vote in November, I'm hoping to fully staff up by the end of November. So might be aggressive, but that's my hope. All right. So next we'll go. Oh,
Real quick, Brian?
Yeah, just one related question. So assuming you become fully staffed and then referencing back to the budget, there was going to be a certain portion for still outside resources for certain specialized audits or whatnot as needed? Is that-
yes. So if we go back to, and I'll go back to our budget here. So we have 683,000, and roughly about 350 of that would be moved to the management personnel line to cover the staffing needs. So that would leave, 200,000 to 300,000 for any special projects or any outsourced projects.
Great. One other question related to the overall budget and
Okay.
I guess you can call it strategic aspects of internal audit. I was trying to remember when the last risk assessment was.
Yes.
And last I could recall, and I may be missing one, was 2021. Was there one since then?
Yes. Yes.
And when
Yeah.
was it?
So
What year
there's
was that?
one. So there's one done pretty much every year. We will get to the risk assessment in this presentation, but there was one done last year also that Plant Moran did a presentation on. You're welcome.
See, that's why we need that institutional
Yes.
memory that you have.
Okay, so let's go back. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. We talked about staffing. Okay, status of school year 2025 audit plan. So these audits were approved and already in place before I started with the district. So as I've come on board, I've been tasked with reviewing work papers and catching us up to where we need to be. So the plan is largely complete. We have 3 audits remaining that are in process, and those are largely complete. We need to just wrap up with some exit conferences, as well as getting management action plan items. And I hope to present all 3 of those at the December meeting. And then the business continuity, disaster recovery, that audit was not started, and you'll see later in the risk assessment, we move that to the current year's plan. Also, there's some recurring projects. These are just baseline. We do these, it's ongoing all the time. We have ethics and compliance concerns that come in all throughout the year. We are always following up on corrective action plan items that management is responsible for after each audit. And then the entity level risk assessment, which is an annual activity. Any questions before I move along? Okay. So now we get to our proposed annual plan for 2026. And so first I want to thank the board as well as district leadership for their time and valuable insights into the significant risks that affect the district, as well as Plant Moran. This risk assessment was a joint effort. They kicked it off, I think, beginning of the year. Then we had some turnover in leadership, and when I started, I interviewed new leadership, and so I did a refresh, and so this was a collaborative effort, and so this is how we came up with the plan. So next, I will let Plant Moran give you a process overview, and then after that, I'll explain the rationale behind some of the projects. So if, Brianna, if you'd like to kick us off with the overview of the risk assessment.
Absolutely. Thank you, Patrina. I'll go ahead and share my screen. I hope you're able to see it there in the room, council chambers.
We're good. We can see it. Thank you.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So thank you for having us today and allowing us to present on the risk assessment and internal audit plan that we jointly helped prepare on behalf of the district. I'm Brianna Solorio. I'm a manager with Plant Moran. I'm also joined by Caroline and Matt on my team as well, who also supported throughout this process. And we've been the team who's supported the district in prior years as well with conducting the risk assessment and facilitating internal audit plan development as well. So I'll start off kind of laying the groundwork as we normally do, starting with the why of why internal audit is valuable for the district. So we perform the risk assessment to identify risks to the district through open discussion with leadership to find ways then to monitor those internal controls that are in place to manage down the district's risks, and then ultimately use internal audit as a vehicle for transparency, helping to identify where there may be opportunities for improvement, where controls can be strengthened, and then design focused efforts then through the internal audit plan to address those areas. And we start with the risk assessment. So earlier this year, we performed interviews with The executive team, audit committee members, a couple of other key personnel in the district to obtain their perspective of where they see the greatest risks to the district, what their greatest areas of concern are, and also obtain some insight into the actions that the district is taking to actively monitor and manage those risks. And then we use those insights then to formulate the internal audit plan and then inform those audit activities then what we can actually test in the internal audit plan. And again, Patrina held additional discussions as well with the district leadership to get a current perspective to inform the plan for the remainder of the school year. And next, I'll dive into some themes that were really the areas that stuck out to us through our discussions with leadership and throughout the risk assessment process. So first, we heard a lot about concern over the district's budget shortfall, and also heard about the various activities that the district is taking to solve for this. So it's really important for the district to continue to identify ways to optimize limited resources and identify any opportunities that may exist that haven't been, covered yet, that may further enhance financial responsibility, transparency, and just use of the resources. And then in the space of legal and regulatory compliance, record retention does remain a concern for the district. There is, no unified system district-wide to retain records. There's different ways records are being retained across departments. So this does present an issue then with record retention. Records are not always able to be produced or just difficult, time consuming to produce when requested. And then the last theme that we had heard quite a few times through our discussions was, IT security and governance. So IT security is just one of those areas that's going to be top of mind for really any school district in today's day and age, just with how rapidly the cybersecurity environment and threats are pervasive. So it's really important to not only make sure that there's those preventative and detective measures in place, but also the effective response in place as well if an event were to occur. And then kind of along the similar lines as record retention, data governance was also a concern with various sources existing for data, various sources of truth and record, which makes it important to further strengthen governance and standardized processes around data governance and retention. Okay, next we have our risk assessment results displayed here on this heat map. Similarly to how we have presented this in the past, this is a visual depiction of the risks on a two-dimensional framework in terms of likelihood of the risk manifesting and impact in which that would have on the district should it occur. So through the audit plan, the high areas of risk that you're seeing more in that orange area do have coverage through the audits on the plan, or were also recently addressed in the last year or two through those internal audit plans. And we try to organize the internal audit plan into logical units so that we can address multiple risks kind of with one coordinated internal audit activity. So there's going to be a primary risk really addressed through the audit with some additional risks that are touched on as well. So for example, miscellaneous cash activity funds touches on budget and finances, financial reporting. Business continuity and disaster recovery touches on IT security and the business continuity risk. Data loss prevention touches on IT governance. And then the policies and procedures review and application touches on legal and regulatory compliance, staff training and development of how those staff are informed of procedures and practices, in addition to any number of other risks depending on the specific areas under review during that audit. And then lastly, this slide represents the district's full risk universe that we saw on the last slide. And then the shaded areas represent those primary risks being addressed, and then the titles and areas of focus then for each of the audits that Patrina had shared earlier on her slide. So the audits that are being addressed: miscellaneous cash activity account funds, data loss prevention, discipline and absenteeism, policy, procedure, review and application, record retention, SPLOST, and business continuity, disaster recovery. We also leave room on the plan for any special projects that may arise throughout the year. If there's any areas of focus that kind of need to shift to, that builds that flexibility into the plan. And then there's also consideration for the corrective action plan follow-up on prior internal audit findings to confirm those have been implemented and remediated. And then lastly, the line item for the risk assessment refresh to develop the audit plan for next school year. So I'll pause there in case there's any questions, or if Patrina, you would like to provide any additional context or color around the plan.
Yes, so I'll just provide another brief summary for kind of like the high-level rationale for doing some of these other audits. So with the, can we go back to the presentation slide? Yes, thank you. So with the miscellaneous cash activity account funds, or we call these the school audits, all of the schools have been audited fully for the last 2 years. And so what we would do, knowing that we're already a quarter into this school year, and then we have some common themes so far, which we'll get to that in our December audit committee meeting. But I've seen some of the reporting already that's being finalized. We would do rotational audits. So we would audit every school on a 3-year rotational basis. That would be the baseline. And then we would add in any high-risk schools. So things like, are we seeing hotline complaints about the school and theft of funds or fraud, or is accounting services seeing any irregularities in their reporting? And so those schools would be added to the audit plan for that year. And so every school would be audited once every 3 years or more if there's, depending on risk. Yes.
I like that because in the past it was every year, And it's like the schools never really got a chance to
Yes.
fix
Yes.
what they found out was a challenge because of the lag in the reporting. And so
Yes.
this will actually give the leadership in those schools a chance to fix the issues, and so we don't keep finding the same things over and over again.
Yes,
I love
agree,
that.
agree.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, these funds are like for athletics or different fees, not athletics, but like different fees the schools are collecting.
Yes.
And when we say cash, it's probably different.
Yes, like it could, yes, so, like, say they're collecting funds for cheerleaders to buy uniforms or for parking events, and they're collecting cash for that.
So we're making sure that they're following the process.
Yes, they're getting the right training first. They are completing the right forms, so they know exactly what the process is. They're depositing the money timely. And then it's getting recorded.
Perfect. Thanks for clarifying.
You're welcome.
Make sure everybody knows.
Yeah. And so the business continuity, disaster recovery, so it was on the plan for last year, decided to keep it. We didn't want it to drop off because that's still a significant risk. So it's carryover from the prior year. We consider this high risk because this type of audit would address any systemic risk that could cause the district to shut down or interruption to operations. Next, the data loss prevention. I'll say business continuity, disaster recovery, that would probably be one of those outsourced audits, because that's highly, highly technical. Data loss prevention, another audit that we would more than likely outsource due to complexity and information technology. So this would evaluate some system protocols in place to prevent unauthorized access and sharing of documents, losing sensitive data, student records. So just think like FERPA, HIPAA, cybersecurity best practices, and just reducing our exposure to data breaches.
So would this audit be helpful for, I guess, basically what we're doing with our ERP development? Or does it make sense to do this before that happens? Because it seems like those two are kind of tied together, and we're about to change how some of that stuff is done. How are those two related?
Yes, so I think it's a little bit of both. I'm not as technical with the IT, but it would be a little bit of both. And I am sitting, we'll get to it at the end of the presentation, I'm on the ERP steering committee.
I did see that. So, excellent.
Answers the question.
Excellent.
General question, if I may. And,
Oh, sure.
thanks for the recalibration on the risk assessment, because I think it was the timing of Connie's departure and you coming on board and like, wait, we haven't had a risk assessment yet. So we're getting to it, so thank you. One of the things that I'm curious to know where this popped up, if it did, in the risk assessment. So as a parent of going on 6 years now in APS, one of the rhetorical questions I've had are all the apps in the schools. There's so much data
Yes.
that's not, it doesn't seem centrally monitored or
Yes.
controlled. So how does that environment, was that environment assessed as part of this risk assessment, or was it just from central APS perspective? Because I feel like there's, in terms of the budget, like how much is every school spending on all these educational apps, right?
Yes.
And then, but in terms of data and risk management, where does that ecosystem or multiple ecosystems fall into this ecosystem here? If that makes sense?
Yes, and I agree and to piggyback off of that too, data across different software platforms for teachers and CLL administration is included in that. So I will kick it back to Brianna to explain data loss from their perspective, and then my perspective was, yes, great idea because of document retention, things being in different places from prior knowledge. Brianna, can you add a little more context to the data loss prevention?
I may be able to jump in and help here on this one. So
Who's speaking?
yeah, and sorry, this is Matt Bowden. I'm engagement partner with Plant Moran.
Okay, thank you.
I'm now on my screen twice. So various IT systems overall were contemplated within the risk assessment, not to the extent where a calculation was performed on overall budget and spend. That's the type of activity that would take place through the course of a specific scope internal audit. But anything around IT infrastructure was contemplated within the risk assessment and informed the overall results that went into where and how we rated overall IT risk.
Does that
So I'll
answer your
pause there
question?
Yeah.
It's a big question. It's a big
Well-
general question. It's hard to parse it down. I understand that. But maybe let me rephrase it. Is data loss prevention in this context from a centralized APS IT perspective versus a decentralized academic environment?
Oh, okay. I would say, Matt, did you have something?
Central would have been more heavily weighted
Yeah,
in our risk assessment as opposed to equal weighting with individual school kind of point of exit exposure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Central was more heavily weighted, but it's a great question and definitely something that we can include in the scope of the proposed audit.
And I would just add, again, it's very nebulous on the academic side, right? And so, maybe over time, if there's like a mini assessment to sample what's going on in the schools to identify the apps and the systems that may be decentralized or not connected centrally to better understand what that risk or scope may or may not be. And maybe somebody has the answer on that. Maybe that was actively discussed. I don't know, but
We'll
just
find out.
Rhetorical question on this.
It's a great question.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm gonna add, I think, and this is a good question for the CFO too. I think, looking at the costs, like duplicative licenses and like costs like that for different apps, programs, whatever it is, and really looking at that, probably from central office, obviously, but even to the school level. So that's, I think, something follow up from Dr. Bracken about.
Sure. All right. So next on our list, data loss. No, we just talked about data loss prevention, record retention. One of our weaknesses, per se, yes, has been documentation, and retaining that documentation according to established schedules in line with board policies or state policies. And so we want to, as well as location and accessibility for when we get open records requests. And so that's high level what this type of audit would cover, is those critical documents for any audits, any legal matters, public requests. All right, next, policy procedure review and application, and so I put procedure in parentheses because we know board sets policy, but departments have procedures under that, or what they consider their departmental policies. And so this one, as we've had changes in leadership, we just want to review from a high level what policies are in place. Are they inclusive enough to support the district's strategic goals? Because of the changes, leadership may lead differently. And do we have policies in place to support their vision of how they want to get to our strategic goals? And so we would assess whether, do we have these critical policies in place? How are they communicated? Are they clearly accessible? Are they current? And how often should they be reviewed?
Is that, I would assume that's done in conjunction with the policy committee, because they would be clearly very involved in your data collection and your development, your scope development, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so next on our list is SPLOST. And we know, these are funds that are voted on by taxpayers. And so this audit would be, yes. So this audit would just kind of promote some transparency as to whether, make sure that funds are being used as taxpayers intended them to. Are there any procedures that can be enhanced? And then, if we have any gaps in documentation, or are there any cost control opportunities? And this kind of audit, we would want to time this so that we catch any internal process improvements before the external audit.
So I saw on the chart of past activity that we didn't have a date for a SPOS audit, and is that because those are done externally? Because I
Well-
know we've seen it and we regularly look at it, but is that done by the finance and Lisa, or help
So
me
it's
understand
done
that
by,
difference?
so the external auditors do their audit, so Malden and Jenkins.
Okay.
So we would be doing
those.
internally, like,
So you're
let's
saying
assess our internal first, so that we know about these issues, if there are any, before the externals come in.
And we will
and-
have one coming up, so we will also then have a good
Yes.
read on how this one has done, is doing, and managed.
Yes, it would help us to mitigate our risk faster and lower before they come in to assess the accuracy and reliability of our financial statements.
Proactive prevention.
Yes.
Not to be redundant, but so it would start, like, we're getting ready to, we're still obviously using money from our current eSPLOS funds, but we're getting ready to, of course, set a new list. The timing of this, though, would be looking at what we've been spending or what we've been doing, or kind of also teeing us up for the new eSPLOS.
We haven't set the scope yet, but you asked great questions. I didn't set a timeline yet because I don't have the staff yet. So it's kind of like, when will we get our staff in?
Yeah, we have some time. I'm just thinking like how that will all kind of come together. Clearly looking at what we've been doing as we start to
Yes.
have a new one. And when you say cost controls, I'm curious. Like,
Yeah,
how-
and we can narrow in on our scope as we start to plan for it, and what we want to cover and timeline, and I can present that at the next meeting.
Great, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right. And lastly, we have student services, discipline and absenteeism. So this type of audit would assess the effectiveness, consistency, and compliance of these services, which kind of aligns with equity and student outcomes, as well as funding and community trust. And this was, highly rated for schools, high risk for them. All right, and then lastly, any special requests, we always leave cushion in our budget for anything, like we like to be agile and we like to respond quickly to changing business conditions. And so we leave a line for special audit requests. And what is not on this slide are our recurring projects. So just to note, on a recurring basis, we always review, we have our ethics and compliance hotline that is operable year-round. We have our follow-up and remediation of prior audit issues, and that's performed year-round. And then we have our annual risk assessment, which has already been completed, but towards the end of this school year, we will be gearing up for the next risk assessment. And so with that said, I would like to lead in on a vote for the proposal of the school year 2026 audit plan.
So I believe we have asked our questions while you were presenting. I'm going to check the dais and see if there are any additional questions. And not seeing any, is there a motion to approve the 2025-2026 annual internal audit plan? We will have community input at the end of the meeting,
That's as long as they have signed up.
as long as you've signed up.
Well, so moved on,
Second.
perfect.
It's been moved by Board Member Howard, seconded by Board Member Pace. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, moving on with our agenda, follow-up and tracking and corrective action plans. And so our corrective action plan tracker, this was in motion before I started. Happy to report that it's 100% complete, ready to go. And so we were using spreadsheets before, which is very difficult to track. So happy to see this here. Plant Moran has done a lot of follow-up work in the past. So as I review those work papers and reconcile, validate, and any remaining issues will be input into the plan and electronically tracked.
This is amazing, and I'm so happy to see this. I remember coming into this role, and it just being difficult to see. We do all this great work, but we didn't necessarily know what happened on the other side. So this feels good personally. I mean, ultimately, it's a district thing, but it feels really good to see that this happened, and like I said, I did some.
Yes, and thank you to the IT PMO team that helped build this.
Say it again.
Genius.
Genius. Thank you.
All right. So next we'll talk about our ethics hotline. So here you have the spread of all the complaints that we receive. Actually, this shows 39 in our ethics point system. We do have one that was received outside of the system, so a total of 40 complaints just in this first quarter. some of them during the interim of executive directors. So far, 5 complaints were substantiated, 1 complaint partially substantiated, 2 unsubstantiated, and then 9 cases where an investigation could not be performed because we needed more information or the report was incomplete. And so we have 23 that are open, in progress, and that we're working on. And so some of those were, transparency, we're backlogged because of the gap with the executive directors as well as getting staff in to work the cases. Any questions on the hotline? Okay. Last thing, non-audit activities. And so I was very happy to hear that we are working on a new ERP system that will alleviate a lot of the issues that we've had in the past across multiple departments and functions. And so I have joined the steering committee, advisory capacity only, to offer input on control design, risk mitigation, just, hey, have you thought about this? Segregation of duties has been a big issue in the past, so that would be a main, point of concern as we go through this, and just making sure that everybody's thinking about different risks as we go through the process. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, and well done for your first audit committee meeting.
Thank
I told you we're not too hard of a crowd. I think we're fairly supportive
I'm
and
happy
easy to
to
work
be
with.
here.
Madam General Counsel, is there a reason for the commission to retreat into executive session?
Madam Chair, there is not.
Excellent, thank you. And now, let's proceed with public comment. Mr. Wilburn, do we have any stakeholders who signed up for public comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have one person by the name of Mr. Matthew Hutchison. Mr. Hutchison, you want to come here? And you have a total of 2 minutes.
And make sure you use the microphone because we want to make sure we get you recorded, and if anyone is listening, I know our board chair is listening online, so make
Can
sure
you
that
hear
you
me?
use, you might have to press the button. If it's not, the red light is on.
The red light is on.
All right.
It's on? Okay. My mouth is big anyway, so you could hear me 10 miles away. That's because I was United States Marine Corps, and I was a platoon leader. So when all the bullets and stuff get to flying, you had to get down, and all that kind of. I had to say it really loud. Okay. Madam Chair and board, that was a great meeting. I'm privileged to have been here today, and welcome. I understand this is your first meeting. I thought it was a brilliant presentation. I just wanted to comment on the phishing. I don't think you used that word, phishing, and the technology. You didn't mention AI, which is a great problem here. Decentralized or centralized can be resolved, I think, with a centralized location. The University of Georgia uses a centralized location, other state entities, and so that might work. That's just a suggestion. The other thing is I'm concerned about the budget itself. This is the audit committee, isn't it? Okay, so I can't say anything today, but I'd like to see money spent on. My 2 minutes are up. I just thought you all did a great job, and thank you for letting us. This is my son. And thank you all. And I just met these 2 wonderful young ladies. 3 minutes, that is great. And thank you all very Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comment.
That is awesome. I am so honored to have had you here to witness and participate. And I'm going to tell you that you have a bonus that the budget committee chair is actually here. While this is the audit committee meeting, you do have 2 members of the budget commission, and the Budget Commission Chair, so you may want to pull her collar when we adjourn, okay?
I got one more thing, Loretta.
Oh, one more thing. Ah,
I
okay.
would like to thank the board team as well as IT for your support in making sure that I was prepared for today.
Teamwork makes a dream work.
It sure does, and they do a great job here. Excellent. That warms my heart to hear that. Excellent. And guess what, y'all? I'm about to give you 9 minutes back in your schedule because I will now entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second?
It has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.